Tonight on To The Point, experiencing homelessness. As neighbors' concerns grow, we hear from those living in this North Sacramento camp, cracking down on sideshows, the new tool law enforcement is using to track suspects from above. And imagine you fall, get injured, and spend months in treatment with no way to communicate.
There was no sign that even indicated that I was a deaf patient to anybody there. It literally left me without a voice.
Left without an interpreter. Tonight, how one local woman's rights were violated and what she has done about it. But first tonight, breaking news into the newsroom. The House has voted to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. The historic 214 to 213 vote makes him the first cabinet secretary to face charges in nearly 150 years. Republicans say he's failed to enforce immigration law at the southern border. The charges against Mayorkas will next go to the Senate for a trial where he is likely to be acquitted. Thank you so much for joining us for To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. And tonight, a follow-up story we brought you last month about an encampment of people experiencing homelessness. We spoke with nearby neighbors about their growing concerns with trash and other issues. Now we're hearing from those living inside the camp and what they want those neighbors and all of us to know.
I was camped out here in my little 6-person tent right here.
Jessamy Cartwright used to live in this encampment.
We call it Ripley Field, the corners of Ripley Street and South Avenue.
Just a few weeks ago, she got an apartment in the city of Sacramento's newly opened St. Clair at Capitol Park, permanent supportive housing for people experiencing homelessness.
I actively tried for 5 years to get off the street, actively, like every day calling people, emailing people, pleading for help.
Cartwright lost her home in the 2018 campfire and lost her leg from an injury she got while escaping the campfire.
It was a traumatic escape that I went through. And I came here to Sacramento County thinking that this is the state's capital and I could find the most resources to help me get housed.
But getting resources and ultimately finding housing can be a complicated, lengthy process.
I know people who have been out here for 22 years and I'm the second person they've known to be housed.
More than 5,000 people are experiencing homelessness in the city of Sacramento. The people living here are camping on private property. Last month, the property owner told us he plans on building single-family homes here. Since then, he says the city has been very responsive, and they're now in the process of scheduling a date to deliver trespassing notices, giving people 3 days to leave once the notices are received.
These are just folks trying to live their lives. They're just trying to be stable.
Known to folks experiencing homelessness as the Bread Lady, this advocate runs a mutual aid group that serves those experiencing food insecurity and regularly brings meals to this camp. She says sweeping an encampment is disruptive.
If folks understood the amount of trauma that individuals go through living out on the streets and how situations like sweeps continue to perpetuate and re-traumatize and how that can further inhibit folks from getting out of this situation, perhaps we would see more movement in creating systems and services and resources that focus on helping them instead of re-traumatizing them.
We're not hardened criminals out here. We're just people trying to survive out here.
Cartwright, who is back visiting her former fellow campmates, has this encouragement.
Don't give up and think that you're not going to get housed. Just hang in there.
Now, the property owner tells us once the city clears or sweeps the encampment, he plans on having a caretaker move on to his property to ensure it stays vacant until he is ready to begin developing it. And tonight we're learning more about the possible overdose deaths of 4 people. It happened yesterday at a home in South Lake Tahoe on Roger Avenue. Officers say the substance located on scene tested presumptively positive as fentanyl. However, it's unclear whether or not that's how the people died. Autopsy and toxicology reports are still pending, which will give an official cause of death, and all 4 victims have also been identified. Now, 3 are Lake Tahoe residents: Abraham Lemus, Adam Joy, and Keely Pereira. The 4th, Clifford Joy from Nevada. Tonight in Modesto, an investigation is underway after a shooting involving 2 police officers. It happened after 1 this morning in the area of Paradise Road and South Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. It's unclear what prompted the officers to open fire, but they say a man involved in a traffic stop had a gun, and the suspect was taken to the hospital. No officers were injured. And we know that sideshows continue to be a problem throughout our region. Tonight, we are hearing from one local police department with a different approach when it comes to law enforcement. Our Devin Truby explains.
Elk Grove Boulevard and Bruceville Road was swarming with more than 70 cars Thursday night, racing, doing donuts, and more. Something Jolene Shaw says she can hear most weekends in Elk Grove.
Well, I'd like to see that gone for sure.
Elk Grove police say they know illegal sideshows are a top concern for residents.
Comes to reckless driving and street racing, we have a zero tolerance policy.
They have a dedicated team that includes a traffic unit and officers in unmarked cars. They're also using drones and city cameras as their eyes in the sky.
It gives us the ability to see what exactly we're about to be dealing with, how many people are out there, what are the amount of resources that we need. We were able to, kind of pinpoint, who the troublemakers are and how many officers we needed.
Last week, they put all of their resources to the test, shutting down the giant sideshow. Their effort resulted in 55 citations, 10 cars were towed, and 4 people were arrested for reckless driving. That was for an illegal sideshow. But what about a legal one? Elk Grove Police says permitted car meetups are allowed.
All they want to do is actually meet with like-minded people. We're totally okay with, allowing those gatherings to come to Elk Grove as long as they are acting lawfully.
Elk Grove police officer Christina Gonzalez says they don't send patrols to check on the car meetups. They would only respond if there were complaints. People we spoke with in the community seem open to the idea, saying it's unfair for a few reckless drivers to give car fanatics a bad reputation.
I think that's a great idea because some people are really into that, and they should have a safe, good place where we can all get along and enjoy our hobbies, right?
And Thursday night's car meetup was not permitted, and with the number of community complaints, Elk Grove police said this is an example of a few bad factors ruining car meetups. All right, next on To the Point, hundreds of flight attendants protest across the country what they are demanding.
We are going to be looking at a big pattern shift. First weather system arrives for tomorrow on Valentine's Day, looking at the timing.
And later, months in treatment, but left without an interpreter. One local woman shares how her rights were violated.
They called me deaf mute. It was the most impressive environment I had been in.
Tonight, flight attendants across the U.S. and UK, they're joining forces in what's being called a day of action. Unions representing more than 100,000 flight attendants from airlines including American, Alaska, Frontier, Southwest, and United are demanding better pay, retirement benefits, and more flexible schedules. Because right now, 2/3 of flight attendants are in contract negotiations. The unions want them to be paid for their time working. Most are not compensated for time spent waiting between flights in the airport or even time boarding the plane. Another concern is the danger of unruly passengers, with incidents on the rise since the pandemic.
Then he spat again in my face and sucker punched me in the eye. I was knocked back 3 feet before falling to the ground.
I was hit in the head, knocked to the ground, and I sustained very serious injuries as a result of that.
It would take federal mediators to call a flight attendant strike. They are expected to meet with unions again next month, and flights were not affected in today's protest. But more than 1,000 flights have been canceled as part of the Northeast is dealing with a major storm. Some are saying this is the biggest snowstorm to hit parts of the Northeast in just 2 years. Some areas are even seeing more than a foot of snow. So I want to go ahead and bring in Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods, because we're going to be getting a storm coming our way pretty soon, too.
Yeah. We're going to be seeing our fair share of images like that in the coming days. Yeah, we've got 3 systems that we're going to be talking about. Tomorrow, we get things going for Valentine's Day. We've got that chance of showers coming our way. Moderate showers expected, 59 degrees the high. Lighter winds for our region, but we are expecting areas that will be under a wind advisory. Temperatures for today warming to near 60, 50s for the foothills, and 40s up top for the Sierra. Tonight, still beautiful outside. We've got a mix of clouds out there. Temperatures will be holding in the 50s for the most part. Forecast low, a little bit on the warmer side at 46 degrees. Here's the weather system brewing in the Pacific. That's what heads our way for tomorrow. It brings with it a winter storm warning going into effect tomorrow. It will take us through Thursday for the Sierra. Wind advisory in place for the central and northern part of the Sacramento Valley, where we expect wind gusts up to about 40 to 45 miles per hour. Winter weather advisory in place from the Tahoe Basin, where we'll see anywhere from about 5 to 10 inches of snow. Again, the timeline, showers for the morning commute, and then we start to see the more widespread rain right about lunchtime through the evening commute. Snow will be heavy at times, so a difficult evening travel conditions. And then for Thursday, we start to see things wind down. In that time frame, we'll see about a ½ an inch to an inch of rain. And again, for the Sierra, we'll see anywhere from 5 to 10 inches of snow. Higher elevations, we're calling for 12 to 24 inches of snow. But that's just storm system number 1. The next one arriving overnight Friday through Saturday, and the third one Sunday through early next week. So for President's Day weekend, be prepared for difficult travel into the mountains as well as the foothills and the coast. And our 10-day forecast, well, once we open that storm door, it sticks around through much of early next week.
Coming up onto the point, a new report is highlighting lower prices across the U.S., what this could mean for inflation, plus months in a transitional care facility without a way to communicate, why one woman says her rights were violated. Let's say you fall, get injured, and have to spend months in a treatment with no way to communicate. That's what happened to Katharina Heckley as she was recovering from surgery in a skilled nursing and rehabilitation facility. Tonight, she shares how her rights were violated.
I literally was just going out to feed the cats. And that's when it all happened.
In 2018, Katharina Heckley was getting ready for bed and went to feed her cats when she suddenly fell down the stairs.
My hands didn't work. I could barely even see what was happening. I couldn't communicate at all. I lost all ability to control my hands.
Katharina, who was born deaf, uses her hands to speak. After falling, she laid on the ground until her family found her the next morning. She was rushed to the hospital and into surgery after suffering a brain bleed.
I went numb. I was in shock. I had muscle weakness on my right side as a result of that, both in my arm and my leg.
After surgery, Katharina needed an IV treatment for an infection. Instead of going home, she was transferred to Capital Transitional Care, a skilled nursing and rehabilitation center in South Sacramento. She says she immediately saw red flags.
There was no sign that even indicated that I was a deaf patient to anybody there. It literally left me without a voice. They called me deaf mute. It was the most impressive environment I had been in. I wanted to say to everybody, hi, I'm a human being. I'm just like you.
Katharina stayed at Capital Transitional Care for 3 months. She says she repeatedly asked for an American Sign Language interpreter, but the facility never provided one.
For 24 hours a day, I'm robbed of my ability to communicate. I felt like I was in a dungeon. It felt like I was in prison.
The highlight of her stay is when her family came to visit. She remembers staff trying to communicate by writing on paper. But because of her injury, there were times she couldn't write at all.
There were moments where I refused medication because people didn't describe to me what these medications were being used for.
Months later, with the help of her family and NorCal Services, a Sacramento nonprofit who helped the deaf and hard of hearing, Katharina filed a complaint against Capital Transitional Care with the California Department of Public Health.
I'm just now starting to develop some really emotional awareness about it. And I was going to say I'm angry, but quite frankly, I just feel like they should know better.
It wouldn't be until 2022 when the California Department of Public Health found the facility violated Katharina's rights to communicate, saying the residents' communication needs in American Sign Language services were not provided timely and put Katharina at a higher risk for unmet care needs.
When they gave me medication, they never explained to me what it was for. They robbed me of my ability to communicate the entire time I was there.
The state's investigation showed an ASL interpreter was only provided once to Katharina, 3 days before she was discharged. During that time, Katharina raised concerns to the facility about the need for more services for people who are deaf.
I was trying to show them that they have this service available for people who speak other languages. And that's what ASL is to me. It's my language.
Under California code, if a language barrier exists between a skilled nursing facility and patients, then arrangements should be made for interpreters to ensure adequate communication. The right to a sign language interpreter is also protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Under the law, healthcare providers are required to have qualified interpreters available for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. We reached out to Covenant Care, who owned and operated Capital Transitional Care in 2019. State data shows they averaged higher than normal complaints. In 2021, the statewide average of complaints received was 45. Capital Transitional Care received 103. Covenant Care tells us in part, Covenant Care takes the Americans with Disabilities Act seriously. At all times, Covenant Care strives to follow all federal, state, and local health and safety regulations and guidelines in providing a high level of care for its residents. They added, "We welcome all persons with any disability and are heartily sorry that anyone has ever felt they suffered a rights violation anywhere for any reason." As for why Katharina is sharing her story with us,
I want the deaf community to have access to communication. We face barriers all the time. It's time to resolve these barriers. It's time to do something about this. We're human just like everybody else. We have a right to communication. We have a right to interpreters.
And we want to mention that Capital Transitional Care changed ownership starting in April of 2023. The facility is now under new ownership and has been renamed Capital Post Acute. Now, if you or a loved one are in a long-term care facility and have concerns about quality of care, rights violations, and other issues related to health and safety, then you can contact a long-term care ombudsman office to ensure your facility is providing adequate care. So you can also call the statewide crisis line number, which is 1-800-231-4024. That crisis line is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to take calls and refer complaints from residents in long-term care facilities. And we do have all this information up right now on our website. The UC Davis Police Department recently hired its first officer who is a DACA recipient. The opportunity was made possible by a new state law that removes a citizenship requirement. Officer Ernesto Moran was sworn in December. He graduated from the university in 2020, and while his first day in the field as a police officer was just a few weeks ago, he has a long history with Davis PD. He joined the university's student security team in 2016 and built trust that wasn't always there.
I grew up where I was not comfortable talking with the police officers or even a police department in general, just because, I was undocumented. I didn't have any, papers.
Rome was born in Jalisco, Mexico, and came to the United States when he was 5 years old. His family hoped for a better life for him, and he went through background checks and the police academy like other officers to get here, and he hopes his story will encourage others like him to join law enforcement. All right, now to your price points. The U.S. Senate passed more than $95 billion in emergency aid for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan and places of worship. It's now up to the Republican-led House to take it up, change it, or let the spending package die. So here's a look at where the money will go in the Senate's plan. About $60 billion would go to supporting Ukraine as it defends itself from the Russia invasion. $14.1 billion would go to support Israel and U.S. military operations in the region. And then another $8 billion would go to support key partners in the Indo-Pacific and deter aggression by the Chinese government. So the bill also includes $400 million for a grant program that helps nonprofits and places of worship make security enhancements and protect them from hate crimes. Speaker Mike Johnson says it could be weeks or months before Congress sends the legislation to President Joe Biden's desk, if at all. All right, turning to the economy now. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says that inflation appears to be slowing with new numbers showing signs of lower prices, but it still might not be low enough to lower interest rates. So the latest inflation data shows American households are paying 3.1% more compared to a year ago. An improvement from December, but discouraging for the Federal Reserve. They are trying to get inflation to 2%, but stubbornly high rent prices are kind of making that difficult. When it comes to borrowing costs and buying a home, economists believe the Federal Reserve will delay interest rate cuts, saying they want to make sure the economy is moving in the right direction. All right, we got to take a break, but coming up next on To The Point, encouraging the love of quilting. The group using fabric, threads, and needles to tell stories that represent Black people. Every February, we celebrate Black History Month, and the theme this year is African Americans and the Arts. It's an opportunity to highlight African American artists, past and present, and their significant contributions to society. So the Sisters Quilting Collective is a quilt and fiber arts group right here in Sacramento. The group was started in 2012 to encourage African American artists and others to share their love for quilting. They use fabric, threads, and needles to tell stories that represent Black people, history, and culture for all to celebrate.
I think it's a beautiful method of expression And people who wouldn't ordinarily find that information in a book may find it expressed in a quilt.
And quilting has a rich and diverse history from the ancient to the modern world. So coming up tomorrow and To the Point, our race and culture reporter Candace Red will explore quilting of Black culture. All right, we love telling your stories and getting to meet you, of course. So if you have something that you think we should be looking into, make sure you reach out to me and the team. Remember, strangers are just people we haven't gotten to know yet. So take the time to get to know someone. Have a good night, and I'll see you later. Hey, it's Alex. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. The To The Point team and I love hearing from you, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. And don't forget, you can always email me and the team at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send us a text message at 916-321-3310.